Hello, everybody. Welcome back into another edition of Prime Sports World, coming to you on a hump day. I'm, of course, your host, David On Point, right there. You can't see his video, but I'm sure I promise you, he's there, Mr. T.J. Hopkins. Welcome into the show. And if you're looking for consistent content on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch, you come to the right place. Prime Sports World coming live to you guys 6 times a week, bringing you guys the most up-to-date content. That is Prime Sports World on YouTube, Prime Sports World on the Twitch, Prime Sports World on Facebook, and last but not least on Twitter, we are PSW_David. So check it out at all the places that we stream at. We would love to get a follow from you guys because we create good content here at Prime Sports World. Happy Wednesday, TJ, man. How are you? I know you can't see it, but how are you?
I'm good. Better now. Like my air conditioner's been running for like 2 days, like the past 2 days now. Today and yesterday. Really cool. It's been super humid the last 2 days, but
So
I'm good.
when I got when I got into so downtown, it's been super nice. Like it's been beautiful actually. But so when I got on the train, it was like I entered into a sauna. Like it was like literally when I left the train, I was like dripping in sweat. It was disgusting. Like, it was like the worst experience ever. And yeah, it's not something I enjoyed at all. Being on the train today was pretty awful. It's weird because they usually do a pretty good job of keeping it cool. So I don't really know exactly what was going on, but it was unfortunate. Let me to tell you, that's for damn sure.
I am sure. I am sure you are not the only one who shared that sentiment.
No, it was literally like being in a sauna. Like I like the sauna, but not like while I'm wearing work clothes at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Like it's like
Right.
because I did go to the gym today and I did go into the sauna and I do enjoy the sauna, but there's a level to these things.
But
But let's not waste any more time. Let's get into a second round analysis. One of the games that were on TV today just went final. That's the first series we're going to talk about here tonight. We're going to talk about that Celtics Bucks series. The Celtics are now down 3-2 in that best of 7 series. Obviously, Chris Middleton is still out for the rest of the series. Each team has traded games. It also appears that Robert Williams III. I know he didn't play tonight. I think that was for preliminary, just cautionary reasons. He probably will be back in Game 6, but I'm speculating a little bit. Al Horford has been huge for the Celtics in this series. The Bucks continue to wait for someone to step up in the place of Chris Middleton. Tonight it was kind of Drew Holiday and Bobby Portis along with Pat Connaughton, but they're going to need somebody to step up every single night for the rest of the series, the rest until Chris Middleton comes back. And even when Chris Middleton comes back, we don't know what his percentage of health is going to be. So the question remains, who has the edge in this series? I know the Bucks are up 3-2 going back home in front of that the Pfizer Forum, in front of that crowd, in front of the Deer District. But how do you think things are going to shake out for this series as the Bucks now have a 3-2 win? And I cannot believe they came back and won that game. They were down by 15 points when I last checked the score. And then I checked it like while I was teaching a class, and I was like, wow, the Bucks won.
Yeah, well,
surprised.
That's that championship DNA that teams that people always talk about. Right? You're not the defending champs for a reason. Like you're not the defending champs, and you're at no point in time have you not been battle tested. Right? This is a team that has been through some battles. They've just like the Celtics, like they've grown together. Right? Like we've seen the pairing of Middleton and Giannis grow together. Right? You trade for Drew, and he gives this team a defensive identity that Eric Bledsoe didn't have or couldn't give him.
Well, I mean, I think they gave Drew Holiday gave them an offensive identity, a guy that could go to as be a scorer. Eric Bledsoe always came up short on the offensive side of it. He was fine defensively. Let's not throw shade on Eric Bledsoe.
But he wasn't.
His offensive game is the reason they traded for Drew Holiday. It had nothing to do with it.
Let's not act like he is the defender that Drew Holiday is.
No, but he's not. Okay. He's not. I wouldn't call him a liability on that end, though.
No, I'm not calling him a liability either. But they upgraded wholeheartedly at that position. Budenholzer is not talked about enough as the best coach in the NBA. All right, when you bring up best coach in the NBA, you go Kerr, Monty Williams has thrown his name into the group now. Spoelstra down in Miami.
Don't you be
Budenholzer,
disrespectful. Don't you be disrespectful. I know the Spurs haven't been good for a hot minute, but Greg Popovich is still the best coach in the NBA until he retires.
well, he might be the best coach all time. Like
Yeah, yeah.
there's a difference. Like there's like four or five different coaches right now you want over Popovich right now.
Oh, no way. No way. No way. No way. Zero, no way.
Literally the guys I just named.
I would take Greg Popovich over all of those guys, and then twice on Sunday.
Sure, but that's not what we're going. Budenholzer, his ability to not get rattled, his ability to keep that team composed. That's not talked about enough, right? That is, and I was kind of like you, and a lot of people outside of Milwaukee fans probably, or true basketball fans, like the game. That's why they said the game ain't over till the clock hits zero.
Yep.
Right? Like the game ain't over till the clock hits zero, and that's why like we're at an age in the NBA where no league is safe. There's no such thing as a safe league anymore for certain teams. Right?
You ought to put up 40 tonight, 40 points, and Drew Holiday punched in another 24 along with 8 rebounds and 8 assists. They trailed for a majority of this game, and they were still able to come back and win this. Like, they were down at halftime. Like, they could have been down even more at halftime.
And there were moments in this game where Milwaukee would make a run, and then here comes Boston. Right, it got to a point where before they ballooned the lead up to 15, Milwaukee couldn't get it past like 9 or 7, and then here comes Boston again. Right, that third quarter was a perfect example. Right, you come out of the half, you cut into the lead a little bit. Boston goes on a run. Right, you go on a little mini one, you get it back down to 9, and all of a sudden it's back to 15. Right, this again, I said it when we previewed the second round before the games even started. I am so upset that this is a second round matchup.
Yeah, I still feel like whoever comes out of this series is going to steamroll through the final, like into the finals. Like I just don't think the Heat or the Sixers have enough to compete with either of these two teams. When it comes to how I think this series is going to end up shaking out, I think Milwaukee's going to close this out in 6 games. I think that home court advantage at the Pfizer Forum. I think the series is over. That's my honest opinion. I think it's over.
Well, I'm not going to say that because we literally just thought I thought Milwaukee was going to win both games at home. I did not have Al Horford dipped into the fountain of youth on my bingo card.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Al Horford rolled the clock back to when he was like in Florida. More points in a playoff game than he's ever scored in his career at 35 years old.
Right, and I just wish that Al Horford had this energy for some other guy that used to torment him for his entire career. You know, I don't know, like, you know, just this one dude, he's about 6'8", he's about 260. You know,
came out of the East 8 years in a row.
Yeah, that guy. Where's a hit then? Sometimes I just wish, you know, because they say that like the switch got flipped when Giannis dunked on Al Horford. I'm like, dude, LeBron's been dunking on you your whole life. You never, no, like where was his energy for that guy?
Well, you know, LeBron is another animal. I don't really think we need to dissect that very much. You know, I think the Celtics, you know, if they had won this game, I think they would have been in the driver's seat to win this series. Obviously, you know, going up 3-2. You know, but now they have to go back to Milwaukee. I don't think this is going to be an easy place for them to play. I expect the Bucks to clean this up in 6 games. I think this series is over. I could be wrong because you know, I spend a lot of time being wrong over the course of my life and being alive. You know,
that's life.
You know, I've gone against Tom Brady way too much. I should have learned my lesson by now, but I don't.
Yeah, I don't get that one on your part. Like I just don't.
And kudos to Mr. Brady on his 10-year, $300 million contract. That's worth more. Worth more money than he made his entire playing career.
I am so furious about that because it's just if you're a journalist in the game, like a young aspiring journalist, how the hell do you compete with that? Like seriously, like they want you to get experience. They want you to get experience, but they don't even. I'm just gonna give this guy that he played the game for 20 years, never been on TV, because that's a different aspect.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You can play the game, but you've never been on TV. You've never talked in front of millions before. But
I mean, when you're Tom Brady, when you're Tom Brady, you get that respect.
And I 100. I'm not when I say that, I'm not mad at Tom Brady. I'm not upset at. I'm mad at the networks, because as a young journalist, what do you want that young journalist to do? Right? Like, how do you say get experience when you don't give them we don't give them a chance to do that? But that's neither here nor there. Yeah, when you look at Boston this series, Al Horford has the most playoff games on this roster by, I think this was his 134th game, something like that.
I mean, the only time I think he missed the playoffs is in being a pro was that season's in Oklahoma City. I think he's made the playoffs every year other than that. So he's got a lot of miles on his tank, you know.
And everybody wants to put Jason Tatum in that superstar bracket, and I respect that. I do. I really do. But it's a lot of people still feel like he has just a little bit more elevation to go.
Yeah.
Before
he's only 20. He's only 25. I mean, he's got time.
But before he can join the LeBrons, the KDs, the Stephs of the world, the Giannis's of the world at that table, and Giannis literally just showed him why you still have some more elevation to go. Like, bro, like you had me down 15, and I helped you in 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, he put up 40 points tonight. So we'll see how this game the series ends up shaking out. Let's move on to the other series in the Eastern Conference. We got the Miami Heat up 3-2 against the Philadelphia 76ers, who are the 4 seed. Embiid has returned to the floor with very mixed results. Obviously, they won the 2 games in Philadelphia, and then the Sixers barely showed up in Game 5. He dominated that game to a 35-point victory, 25, something like that, something absurd number. James Harden has continued to struggle in this series, has not shot it well from the field, has not played particularly well at all outside of that game number 4 that they won. This series is over too. I think the Joel Embiid. I know the NBA. Inside the NBA guys talked about this during the halftime of the Heat Sixers game last night. Joel Embiid seems rattled by the fact that he didn't win the MVP, and if you're a teammate of his, you got to be like, "Yo, bro, you got to let that go."
What's more important? What's more important? Us playing in the playoffs or you winning this MVP?
Yeah, like you gotta let that go. Because if you watched him play in game number 5, that was a guy who was clearly distracted, clearly had other stuff in his mind because he didn't come out focused, he didn't come energetic, he didn't come out poised, and he just let the Heat rattle him, and he never recovered. His running mate James Harden was equally as bad during that game. It was like 5 of 13 from the field with like 15 points.
Again, you cannot.
Nobody really played well in the Sixers in Game 5, though. I mean,
no, you didn't.
Keep it 100.
You cannot sit here and tell me that this James Harden is worth a supermax.
No, dude, he's not. 100% not. But somebody's going to give it to him, and they're going to look at that contract a year and a half from now, or 2 years. Really, it's going to be the worst contract in the league.
Like if you sit here and tell me that somehow, someway, you can find a reason to justify giving James Harden $248 million over the course of 5 years, but a guy like Zach LaVine's not worth $200 over the course of 5. Like I'm just gonna walk away and I'm gonna call the police on you and tell you like, hey, there's an escapee.
So the Sixers are gonna have a problem because if they don't give him the money that James Harden wants, somebody else will, and they will be stuck with 2 of the worst contracts in the NBA, including the Tobias Harris contract's terrible. He was atrocious in game 5 too. He was even worse than James Harden, if that's even possible. They will have 2 of the worst contracts in the league, and they will be hamstringing their franchise for the future.
Again, like Tobias Harris has been. This is 2 playoffs in a row where Tobias Harris has been able to coast off the bad play of others. Everybody's so focused on giving James Harden the attention because James Harden is not the James Harden that we've, grown accustomed to. It's allowing Tobias Harris to fly under the radar again. It's literally Ben Simmons 2.0. Ben,
12
like we,
points. He pitched in 12 points. He had 3 rebounds. He shot it 5 of 14 from the field in
like
32 minutes on the floor.
you gave him $175 million. I don't know what the math is over the course of four or
It's
five
like
years.
35. It's like 38. The average is like 30, 35, $38 million a year.
Yeah, but he the bad play of James Harden, the injury concerns of Joel Embiid because that's the two things everybody's talking about. James Harden's bad play, well, three things really. James Harden's bad play, the injuries to Joel Embiid, and the Doc Rivers question mark because it is rumored that Daryl Morey wants Doc out and D'Antoni in. Why? I don't know.
Well, D'Antoni has had a somewhat better. I mean, outside of that season where Doc Rivers won the ring, I mean they've basically underachieved every year he's been a coach anywhere. So,
and don't get me wrong, like has he underachieved? Yeah, but has he just been on the bad end of some bad luck? Absolutely.
sure.
How many Clipper teams that we thought should have won it all but didn't because either Chris Paul was hurt or Blake Griffin was hurt? Like that happened.
That's true. And you can make the same argument for the Clippers over there. I mean, Kawhi Leonard got hurt and Paul George got hurt. They missed time here and there. These things. You're not wrong, but I mean, outside of that, the big three, they won one title and they went to another. I mean, you could make the argument that original big three may have underachieved as well, and you could also have maybe the injuries may have been a big factor in why they underachieved. But I mean, the Sixers. I mean, they went all in. I mean, they gave up 2 first-round picks. They gave up Seth Curry, who would have been valuable in this role. He probably would be even more valuable than whatever James Harden's been rolling out. They gave up 2 first-round picks to get James Harden. Like they basically mortgaged part of their future to have him be the final piece to a championship puzzle, and he hasn't been even remotely close to that since he got there. He's clearly lost a lot of his explosion. He doesn't have that burst to the floor. He doesn't have that burst to the basket. He just doesn't have it. The stuff that he used to do, the stuff he used to do where he would get foul calls on like shots and stuff and lean in, he's not getting those calls anymore. For rightfully so. I mean, a lot of that stuff was, pardon my French, bullshit.
And
just
like. So, real talk, everybody wants to, knock Trae Young for doing all that. No, it started with James Harden because James Harden would do that 4-step back, not get called to travel, and jump into folks and get a foul call. But you're asking Tyrese Maxey to step up. You got to keep in mind, Tyrese Maxey's 20 years old.
21 or something. He came. He was like the youngest player drafted 2 years ago. He's 21 at the very oldest.
Like that's a lot of pressure. Hey, bro, James ain't got it tonight. Tobias Harris ain't got it tonight. You gotta step up. We need you to hit some shots. All right. Matisse Thybulle is, that 5 points a game is coming in clutch, man. 5 points a game, bro. You gotta I understand you're a hell of a defender. You're a good defender, but from the looks of things, you ain't playing that much defense because you're getting the whole team getting their ears lit. Lit up by
everybody on the Miami Heat is just scoring at will. Victor Oladipo is rolling the clock back. I mean, Tyler Hill's playing pretty well. Everybody in game five, everybody who scored double digits on the starting lineup.
Jimmy Butler got to be averaging at least 35, 40 for this series, bro. For the series, if you would have told me that Jimmy Butler was going to average 35 to 40 points against anybody, I'm like, well, who the hell guard? Is he getting wide open shots? Is just nobody guarding him?
So in the 9 games that they've played so far in this playoff series, he's averaging 30 points a game. So I'm not sure what that average is. I don't have a way to quickly look that up.
I'm looking at the what is it, 5 games? Yeah, the 5 games against the 76ers. He has
15, 22, 33, 40, 23. No, that's probably closer to 27, 28.
20.
Yeah.
Still, Jimmy Butler's he's not that type of dude. But
No,
that's
dude,
also
he's shooting it. Like, he's actually shooting it pretty woeful from the field. Outside of actually, no, he's not. He's shooting an okay percentage. But I mean, this is when you win a game by 35. Everybody eats. Everybody has fun. For the Heat, they just have to continue to play like this. I mean, they have a
yeah.
balanced scoring attack. They have Victor Oladipo, who's become a secret weapon off their bench. They basically hit him on their bench all season long, and then in the playoffs, it's like, oh yeah, hey, we got Victor Oladipo, who's a former All-Pro player. Like, we're just gonna dust him off. Like, it's all good.
Well, I forget the nature of the injury he had.
I thought it was he tore his quad, and he never really
Yeah, yeah,
recovered
yeah,
from
yeah,
the
yeah.
quad.
It was a torn quad,
Yeah, and then
and
he had a setback
mhm.
last season at some point, and he ended up having surgery, and so he wasn't able to play at all last season, or very little last season.
And then
It might
he
have been
kind
his
of
hip. It might have been a hip injury.
no, it was a torn quad, and then he kind of went viral.
Something came up after that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
And then he went viral like earlier this season because like as they were working his way, like as they was like working his way to come back, they showed a video like a 15-second clip of him training. Like Udonis Haslam was helping him train, and they was like, bro, this man getting locked up by Udonis Haslam. He can't create space against Udonis Haslam, but they're supposed to be the guy to save the Heat, and now those people have to come out and say, yeah,
my
that's
bad.
still Victor Oladipo. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah,
Right? Like that don't that's and that just shows like don't be a prisoner of the moment. I wholeheartedly agree with you. This series is over. Like I don't.
it's a wrap.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like the Heat have gotten a bit of luck, right? Like you don't count on Embiid coming back from a fracture, a orbital fracture, and expect him to be wholeheartedly himself,
True. I mean,
right?
you also don't expect him to break that in garbage time against Toronto.
Exactly.
You
So
know,
again, that's on and that's on coaching. Like you're up 30 with two
yeah,
minutes left.
yeah.
Why is he in the game? Like that's just bad coaching on the 76ers part.
100%. It's very eerily similar to the Derrick Rose injury. Like, shouldn't have
Very
been on the
weird.
floor, shouldn't have been in the game, didn't need it.
They need it.
And the other thing about this Miami Heat team is they haven't even had Kyle Lowry, I think, in a single game in this series. Like, they're eventually going to get him back, and they're going to get even better on offense, like, or defense, or whatever. You know, Kyle Lowry is going to give them a tough championship pedigree that they don't have right now.
And the play of the play of the other guard players, the play of Jimmy Butler, of Oladipo, of Tyler Hero, of Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, that allows Spoelstra to go to Kyle Lowry like, hey, bro, this is a hamstring. Hamstrings are one of the trickiest injuries to manage because it's not something that you can just sit down and rice. Like you can't rest, ice, elevate,
Yeah, I mean, this needs to be
and
something
compress a
that, like, for
hamstring.
real, be treated. Like, it's, you know, it'll linger if you don't. I mean, you can make the argument that James Harden rushing back from that hamstring injury last season is still impacting him today.
Yeah,
A year
yeah,
later, he's
yeah.
still, like, because he rushed himself back to play in that game against Milwaukee, game 7 or 6, whatever one it was. Like, he's still dealing with the repercussions of
It was
trying to rip his body up there.
it was like game 4 or 5. Whenever Kyrie Irving
I think it was. I think he
rolled
played
his
in game 6
ankle.
or 7. He basically was a decoy for 3 games in that series, or 2 games in that
Yeah,
series.
and so like that like those other players have elevated their players enough to the point where they're like, hey, Kyle Lowry, sit down. Like
Yep.
we like sit down. We don't need you to make this worse than what it probably already is. Right? It's probably way worse than what they're letting on to be because he played like what, one game,
I think he
two
played.
games.
I think he played 2 games in that series against the Hawks, but they didn't need him to play. Like, they had that series in the bag too. So I
And
guess
then
we'll see.
he played like 2 games against Philly, and it's just like it flared up right again. So that's an injury like you have to take it easy because you can't run like, but you can mess it up. Just, like you can continue to strain it because you got to walk everywhere.
Yep.
Right? Wait, like what are you gonna do? Like ain't nobody gonna push you, ain't nobody gonna wheelchair you around, and you don't want to do that. But
So
yeah,
we'll.
I expect this. I
I
expect this to
expect
be done. This is
100%.
done.
Moving on to the Western Conference, we got the Phoenix Suns up 3-2 against the Dallas Mavericks, going back to Dallas tomorrow. Suns have a series lead despite massive out from Luka Doncic. Nobody from the Dallas Mavericks has consistently stepped up to help Luka in any single game. Chris Paul has struggled in a couple of the games, especially in the games in Dallas. You know, I'm on record as saying when we did this show, I think, well, I don't remember last week when I did this show solo, I still think Dallas is going to win this series. I something about Phoenix just isn't clicking with me. Their shot selection at times is terrible. Their defense intensity isn't quite there. And I expected this to be a massive DeAndre Ayton series. Hasn't really been that. I mean, there are moments where DeAndre Ayton has been the most dominant player in the series, but as a whole, it hasn't really been the dominant performance that I really expected out of DeAndre Ayton. It's based on who will be guarding him for Dallas, which is nobody worthwhile, really. No offense to Dwight Powell's of the world, but like for real.
Dwight Powell plays like 10 minutes, and it's literally all in the first quarter. We literally don't see Dwight Powell anymore.
I mean, Maxi Kleber is probably guarding him at times. Like it's just they should be dominating this game, and he hasn't really been.
First times guards him at time, and it's like
that should be a chicken dinner. As Shaq likes to say, barbecue chicken dinner. Yeah, barbecue chicken. Like that's putting that in the breadbacks of like a mouse in the house, scared to go to church. You know.
Now I don't know if some of that's Aiden or some of that's coaching, because if I'm the Suns, if I'm Chris Paul and I'm Devin Booker, I'm like, and I see that, if I'm Devin Booker, like, yeah, and nobody on that team is gonna guard me. Nobody on that team is checking me. I can get mine, but it's imperative that you include DeAndre Ayton, that you make him feel included.
Because that's a big man. I mean, what happens sometimes is like they don't get early touches, and sometimes they check out.
Yeah. And DeAndre Ayton is not Steven Adams, where Steven Adams is content with getting his points off of
putbacks,
lobs and putbacks, and yeah.
He's immensely skilled. He only played 22 minutes, and I know they were up by 30 points. So I guess nobody really had to play that much, but like I would have liked to see him.
And that game really got away from the Mavericks in the third quarter.
Yeah,
they only scored 14 points in the third quarter.
Yeah, and Phoenix put up 33 in that same quarter. So yeah, they kind of got away from him right there. I'm just going on a straight up limb here. The Dallas Mavericks, they seem like a different team in Dallas. I think they'll rally up and they'll win game 6. And then it's every man for themselves. One game wins all in game number 7. And who do I have more faith in right now? Luka Doncic or the combination of Chris Paul and Devin Booker? I think it's Luka.
Well, it's the fact that Luka is hanging in there when it's a 2-on-1 situation. Sometimes a 3-on-1 situation. If they used to ever get DeAndre Ayton going, right? What was I about to say? The one thing that's not really talked about in this series is the chippiness.
Yeah.
Between the two teams and
the fans of the teams. So.
Well, you can Luka was caught on camera saying everybody's tough when they're up big, right? Everybody, and I'm like, well, that.
I mean, duh.
Duh. Michael Jordan was the clip that was famous from The Last Dance was Michael Jordan in the locker room with a baseball bat with a cigar saying, let's see if all that trash talk can start when it's 0-0 instead of a 5, 6, 8 point lead, right? That's the sign of a good man. When you can talk shit and you losing and you still talk ish, that's a sign of a good. It's easy to talk when you're ahead.
I mean, Dallas, if they do get bounced in this series, I mean, they're going to have to do something about this secondary score next to Luka. So they're starting to line up in game number 6 or 5. That's right, say 5. 49 points from Jalen Brunson and Luka Doncic. The other 3 guys in their starting lineup combined for 8 points.
Yeah, it's a consistency basis thing. That can't happen. You brought in Dinwiddie to be a contributing scorer. Spencer Dinwiddie
2 points.
Not a bump.
2
Spencer
points.
Dinwiddie, you gotta be better, bro.
He was outscored by Frank Ntilikina.
That can't happen. Frankie Nicotine, as Michael Rappaport so lovingly calls him, Frankie Nicotine cannot outscore you, bro.
No, they can't have it.
The one thing I have noticed, obviously, is when the Mavs are at home, they are shooting the lace off of the ball. Cleaver, Finney-Smith, Bertans, Bullock, they go absolutely nuts with shooting the ball in the American Airlines Arena.
So how do you see this one shaking out? I'm already on record. I think Dallas is going to win this in 7. Do you think Phoenix closes this out, or do you think they get this?
I 100% believe this is going 7. I think Dallas wins it in Dallas wins game 6. The fact that on the road Luka can't count on the same production that he gets at home, that's why Phoenix is going to win this. It's too much of a who's it going to be tonight situation.
Yeah, 100% true. I'm still going to roll with it. I don't mind being wrong. So I guess we'll see how that checks out.
Which is why if I'm Dallas and if I'm Mark Cuban, the 7-foot-tall French dude, I don't call him. There's a shooting guard who's a free agent right now. We literally just talked about him. Kind of light skinned. I would give him a call. See how he likes. I would also. See how he likes to say the taxes.
With those no income tax. So on the other side of this bracket is the Grizzlies Warriors. The Grizzlies are down 1-3. They're currently up nearly 20 points in game number 5. Ja Morant
up 20 points.
It must have changed since I checked it. Ja Morant not expected to return in this series. The question is, the series is over even if they win tonight, right?
Based off, I don't know, because let's not act like the Grizzlies didn't have a chance to win game 4. That game was theirs.
Yeah, I mean they only lost by 3 points.
That game was theirs for the taking. I kind of think Golden State, uncharacteristically, they don't have Ja. We ain't got to take them seriously. That attitude kind of got them. And the game was closer than it should have been. They literally should have blew their ass out, right? Like, game 3 is what should have happened in game 4. How they blew their ass off, ran their ass off the gym in game 3. That should have been game 4. This right here is if Memphis wins tonight and they take it back to Golden State cannot sit here and say, all right, because they ain't got Ja, it's gonna be an easy out. They don't have Ja right now, and you're down 20.
Yeah, I mean they're getting their face stomped in, and I mean, and they'd have to go on the road in game number 7 if they were to lose game number 6, which it seems like they're gonna lose game number 5. Even though a 20-point lead is really nothing in the NBA these days. But I just think without Ja Morant, this series is, no matter, even if they lose tonight, this series, it's going to be too much for Memphis to try to overcome. I know during the regular season that they won whatever it was, 20-2, but that was during the regular season where teams aren't going to be. You're not playing the same team every single night, so they can't hone into what you do well and what you don't do well, because you have to play somebody different every night. This series, I mean, the Warriors, the Grizzlies have been a really nice story this season. Unfortunately, this is where the Cinderella story ends. They do not. Warriors are going to come back and win this game. They're going to find a way.
It is like, I don't know, like if Mike Brown somehow, some way waves the white, if they get down big enough, Mike Brown somehow, some way waves the white flag and be like, you know what, we'll just send them home in game 6. That wouldn't be surprising at all. That also goes to show, like, this also goes to show me that just because you have these players doesn't mean it's a guaranteed win. Like, again, Mike Brown, we'll get into him. Mike Brown he's the new head coach in Sacramento. Mike Brown's been on this staff for a couple years. Right?
6 years.
Steve Kerr is out with COVID protocols.
Yep.
Right? All you have to do is literally run the same stuff that Steve Kerr does, and you won by 3. It took Steph Curry going nuts in the fourth quarter, and a hell of a sell job by Steph Curry on that push by Desmond Bain to get a free throw, to get an extra call. Because like everybody wants to talk about that, like it's a trash call. It is, but
I mean, when you're Steph Curry, you get that call.
It happened, you just and do. I think what's more infuriating about it is it's the referee that's right there, right? Like, you see me go for a rebound, and all of a sudden, like I pull my hands back, and he just goes flying out of bounds. Right? So I'm more disappointed that you fell for the act than you actually called in the call. I think Memphis wins tonight, and I think they get closed out in 6. If this somehow, some way goes 7, all bets is off.
I agree with you on that. I think the Warriors finish it. I know they're down 20 points right now, but I think they're going to come back and win the game. But yeah, this series, in my opinion, I think is over. I think without John Morant, they're going to have no way to recover. But if this series does find a way to go 7, yeah, I think the Grizzlies can close it out. I think they have an opportunity, but only if this series goes 7. Obviously, that's the only way they can win.
Yeah.
Moving on from that,
right, and this is another matchup with the chippiness involved, but we're not going to get that's been talked about to death between these two teams, and there's nothing more that needs to be said.
So a new man in Sacramento. We kind of teased it a little bit earlier in the show. Mike Brown, hired by the Sacramento Kings to be their next head coach. Mike Brown has spent the last 6 seasons as an assistant in Golden State. This will be Mike Brown's 4th coaching job. His 4 coaching jobs included 2 stints with the Lakers and 2 stints with the Cavs. The Kings picked Brown over Steve Clifford, Mike D'Antoni, and Mark Jackson. Did the Kings pick the right guy to coach their team?
Well, to me, yeah, because we just said it. He's spent 6 years. He just spent 6 years on the coaching staff. He's been around it. I don't know where Steve Clifford's been in the past since he's left Charlotte.
I mean, why? What did Steve Clifford do in Charlotte to keep getting interviews to be head coach? Come on.
What? Two playoff appearances total, two total.
Yeah.
Total.
Like what is like we're gonna rehash Steve Clifford, who never made it to a second round playoff series in his life. The only thing that irks me a bit, like Steph Curry's not on this roster, and like this isn't the first time that a team has been like, hey, you see that assistant for the Golden State Warriors? Let's hire him. And
it's almost like we've seen this movie before, and really, it's the same team.
Yeah, it's the same team. Well, I mean, the Sacramento hired Luke Walton after he got fired by the Lakers, so I mean that's the narrative's slightly different. But like this notion that like because they were around Steph Curry and Steve Kerr that they're going to be able to bring those players in that system into a new place, it just hasn't worked anywhere else. Nobody else has tried. Luke Walton's the only real example of anyone who's left that Steve Kerr coaching system because it's been fairly new. Luke Walton didn't work out in the Lakers. He didn't work out for damn sure in Sacramento. And Mike Brown, you go to Sacramento, like they don't have the roster. You look at their roster. I mean, Domantas Sabonis can be your Draymond Green if you want him to be, but he's not really that skilled. They don't have anyone that's even remotely close to Steph Curry. De'Aaron Fox's shooting selection plus his field goal percentage, all these percentages are just terrible. He's gotten worse as he's gotten older. So,
And you traded your version of Klay Thompson to the Pacers.
Yeah.
Like Buddy Hill's gone. Buddy Hill's not walking through that door.
Tyrese Halliburton ain't walking through that door either. I mean, they could have kept Tyrese Halliburton forever.
It's it's funny you brought up Luke Walton because when Luke Walton got the Lakers job, Steve Kerr was asked. I forgot what the question was that he was asked about Luke Walton taking that job, and Steve Kerr's response was, "Well, he doesn't have Steph, Klay, or Draymond over there, so we'll see." I think it was something on the lines of, "How do you think he's gonna do? How good of a job do you think he's gonna do?" And Steve Kerr was like, "Well, he doesn't have Steph, Klay, or Draymond over there, so we'll see." Right, and Mike Brown, you're not gonna have Steph, Klay, Jordan Poole, and Draymond over there. But let's not act like you don't have pieces that they are just pieces of untapped potential in Sacramento, right? Like you're still waiting for De'Aaron Fox to get that first All-Star bid, and he's been knocking on the door.
I mean, he's regressed in some ways, though. I mean. I don't know. I don't know how much to blame that is on the Sacramento experience or his overall skill set because all of his percentages across the board have gotten worse over the last couple of seasons. And if he doesn't turn around, that contract's going to become borderline untradeable, which is probably why Pacers didn't want him, and they ended up having to give away Tyrese Halliburton, who would be a great building block piece to still have if you're Mike Brown. Mike Brown. The only thing I can ever think of is that Mike Brown wanted to get back in the coaching booth so bad that he took this job, because this Sacramento job, it's not a good job. I mean, you look at their roster. I mean, De'Aaron Fox is their best player, but outside of that, I mean, Davion Mitchell is still an unknown. Domantas Sabonis is okay. He's a fine player, but he's nothing. I don't think he's anything franchise altering.
Compared to let me find it. Compared to his stats this year, the 2021-2022 season, he played in 59 games. His shooting percentage is about the same. He shot 47% last year. He shot 47% this year. His 3-point percentage dropped from 32 to 29, and his field goal percentage dropped from 52 to 50. So it's not a precipitous drop off. Like if he went from 52,
sure. Okay, like, sure.
If he went from like 52 to like 42, then you're worried.
Okay, I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
Like he's only 24. He's 24.
Yeah, he's still a young player, and he still has room for improvement. I'm not knocking that. I mean, he still has all the intangibles to be a really good basketball player. But I just, his percentages aren't excellent. But
if I'm Mike Brown, so I go over there, I got De'Aaron Fox, I got Sabonis, who is. Do you have something against Domantas Sabonis for you to say he's not skilled? Like,
no, I never said
that. Really
I never said that, but he's not a franchise changer.
Depends. That depends on the franchise. Like, let's not act like that.
All right, real quick. Okay, so the Sacramento Kings were really trying to make the playoffs this season, and so what they did is they gave away Tyrese Halliburton. They brought in Domantas Sabonis as a piece that can push them to the playoffs. They got worse after that trade.
De'Aaron Fox played in 59 games. How many of that was with Sabonis?
It doesn't matter. You trade for Domantas Sabonis. They expected to make the playoffs, and they didn't.
That's like saying Boots didn't matter because Zach LaVine, like, we traded for you. Even with Zach LaVine gone, you still should have brought the Bulls over the hump and made the playoffs when we traded you here. No, that's not how that works. I brought you here to run with this guy.
It's true.
I brought you here to run with De'Aaron Fox. You can't do that if Fox ain't in the lineup.
All right, I'll give you that one. All right, I do think Sabonis is a skilled basketball player. I just don't think he's a franchise-changing piece.
Now,
and I sure as shit wouldn't have traded Tyrese Halliburton for him.
Well, the Kings did that to themselves. This is why poverty franchises remain in poverty.
Yeah, it's true.
Good defense, Andrew Wiggins. Right? You had 3 guards, right? Him, Fox, Halliburton, and then you drafted Davion Mitchell. So you created that logjam yourself. It's like, damn, who's gonna play? Because I took Fox with my first overall pick a couple years ago, and I took Halliburton
first. He was our first round pick. He was like 11th pick 2 years ago.
I took Halliburton pretty high too, and I turn around and I add Davion Mitchell to that too. So somebody's not gonna play. Because I'm not doing the 3-guard lineup, especially when I have a Buddy Hield still on my roster.
Yeah.
Not doing that.
And Buddy Hield is a hangover from the DeMarcus Cousins trade.
And I'm not right. So I'm not coming out with a super small 5 with 3 guards, Buddy Hield at the power forward, and like Rashawn Holmes.
Or Marvin Bagley, who tore it up on the Pistons after they traded him away.
And so that makes no sense to me. So the Kings did that to themselves. And just a quick update: Golden State is down 27 going into halftime.
Yeah.
So
maybe they won't come. Maybe they won't come back. So
to me, Sacramento, they got the right guy. He's been active. Mark Jackson has been linked to other jobs. He's been linked to the Lakers. He was linked to this job.
Hornets job.
The Hornets job. Wholeheartedly, if I'm Mark Jackson, whatever ESPN is paying me to be in that booth and talk basketball on TV, you either got to match that or give me an increase for me to leave this booth.
Yeah,
because I got
He's
screwed
got a
over
cushy.
once,
He's got a cushy ass job. I mean, come on.
and I've gotten screwed over once as a head coach. It's not happening again. The fact that he was linked to that Laker job is like that's laughable because the Lakers like to hire quote unquote within the family. The Lakers don't want a coach; they want a puppet.
Yeah, it's true.
Mark Jackson.
I mean, that's what Frank Vogel was.
And Mark Jackson is not a puppet. Mark Jackson is gonna tell Kurt Rambis the first time Kurt Rambis tells him, "Hey, you should play this guy over this guy." Mark Jackson's gonna tell him to kiss him where the sun don't shine, and that's a nice way of me saying that.
So yeah, we'll see what happens with the other coaching jobs. We'll keep an eye on them as time goes by. I think there are only 2 coaching vacancies still left: the Charlotte job and the Laker job. So we'll see what ends up happening with that.
And we don't, and that's just right now. We don't know what's going to happen with the Knicks. Yeah. We don't know what's going to happen.
I think if the Knicks were going to make a coaching change, I think they would have done it by now. But we'll see.
No, they could no.
That's true.
That don't mean nothing.
It's true.
We don't know what's going to happen with the Knicks. We don't know what's going to happen with the Nets. Like they say Steve Nash's job is safe, but how many times?
Let's see what happens with those Kyrie Irving contract negotiations. You know, if he wants a new coach there, they're going to have a new coach.
And that's if they won't. That's if they bring Kyrie back.
I mean, they don't have a choice to. They don't have. Their hands are completely tied. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us. This has been our second round analysis. We will be back here tomorrow. This probably will be a late show tomorrow. I'm not even sure what we're going to cover. But I got to work stupid late tomorrow, so we'll see what ends up happening with tomorrow's show. But yeah, I've been David Huppin right there. Mr. TJ.
Tomorrow's Thursday, right?
Yeah.
I think the NFL schedule is released, so we can do something NFL related.
Maybe. I'm not going to be home until like midnight tomorrow.
Damn.
Yeah,
we'll cross that bridge. We'll cross that bridge then.
Yeah, so it sounds good. But yeah, I've been David Huppin.
If I have to wait till Friday, we can do it Friday.
Sounds
unless
good.
she's going out of town again.
No, I am not, so we'll figure it out. But yeah, I've been David Huppin right there. It's Mr. TJ Hopkins. Thank you very much for joining us. And check us out at all the places. Prime Sports World on Facebook, Prime Sports World on YouTube, Prime Sports World on the Twitch, and then we are PSW_David on the Twitter. So continue checking us out. And TJ, what we do here at the Prime, my friend?
We bring the heat, and we don't need this much heat.
No, dude, it's hotter. It's hotter. It's been hotter the last 2 days than it was all last summer. For real, dude.
Not okay. That is not okay. That's okay.
We don't do the 70s here in Illinois anymore. We just go right to excruciating heat. We go from snow to the devil. Like it's ridiculous, dude. I'll see you tomorrow, man. Have a good night, dude. Peace out.